Hey guys, this is Ron Pope, and you're listening to Torrent This with Dando.
Hey guys, Dano here. Now I am joined on the line by a man who is easily one of the nicest and hardworking musicians in the business today. He hails from the US and became a worldwide sensation with his track A Drop in the Ocean. His latest hit album is called Atlanta, which contains songs like the single One Grain of Sand, and he's recently wrapped up his first ever Australian tour. I'm of course talking about none other than Mr. Ron Pope. Ron, thanks for your time, mate, and how's things?
Thank you so much for having me. Everything's great.
Now what's been happening today, man?
I'm in Brisbane today. I'm playing the last show of my tour today, and so then I'm done touring for the year. So
Yes.
today's my last one. It's crazy because I've just played so many shows all over the world this year. It's been everywhere. So I'm excited. That I made it all the way through.
Now, firstly, are you wearing a hat today, or did you shower this morning?
I went to lunch with a hat on, but I will be showering before the show.
Yeah. Now, how have the gigs been going anyway, man, in Melbourne and Sydney?
Everything's been going great. These are very intimate acoustic gigs. Usually, I play with a full band, and I play electric guitar and kind of jump around all night. But these shows are really small clubs, little kind of preview dates, and so it's interesting to play these acoustic shows because acoustic shows can kind of go either way. If people show up and they kind of get an acoustic show, then it's great because they'll be quiet.
Yeah, they'll shut up.
They're really locked in. And so we would, it's been great. Like the shows have been cool. People are excited. The first night in Melbourne was just like the perfect way to start off a tour like this. Everybody was so attentive and so quiet during the songs. So it's been really cool. I'm having a really good time down here and really enjoying myself.
Yeah, like you said, it's your first time down here. Is it what you expected?
I didn't have like a great frame of reference kind of for what Australia would be like. I didn't really know a lot about Australia, and so I kind of started to pick up some information leading up to the tour. So yeah, so far I've been really pleasantly surprised. Everything's been great. I mean, people are really into my music here, it seems, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's exciting to be in a place where people are enjoying the music.
Is Emily Chung being a good hostess, or do I have to tell her off?
No, Emily's wonderful.
Now, be honest, man. Do you guys in the States, do you think that we all eat Vegemite and have kangaroos in the backyard?
No, definitely. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't have a ton of information one way or the other about Australia. The thing that was the most striking, I guess, is that in the States, I don't even know if they still run this commercial, but for a long time they ran this commercial about Foster's beer. And they would say Foster's Australian for beer, and it turns out that people there's no Foster's here.
None at all.
Apparently you can find it some places, but it's not popular at all. So I thought that was a pretty curious thing, because you come here and I assumed that it would be everywhere and that like every bar would have it, and actually there's none.
Yes.
So that's kind of the only thing that backwards piece of information that I had.
I worked that out because my fiance, she's English. So when I went over to England last year, they all offered me Foster's, thinking they were making me like feel at home, and I'm like, I've never drunk this before in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Now it's taken you so long to get down here and tour. When do you think you'll be back?
I don't know. It really depends on when they'll have me back. It looks like right now I'm going on tour in Europe in a few weeks. Right after the holidays, I'm gonna leave and go to Europe just before the New Year, and then the tour starts right at the top of the year. So I'll be there all of January, and then I'm not sure. I'm in the process of writing my next album, so I'm gonna need some time to do that. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully not in the incredibly distant future. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah, good. Well, you're here for another week, I think it is. What do you have anything planned to do? I mean, you've already patted a koala, so you've done everything basically.
I'm gonna go see some more koalas. But that was kind of one of the main things on my agenda. I was like, I really want to see a koala in person, and so that was a really neat thing to get to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. We're gonna do some of that, and maybe go to the beach, depending on the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're just here, but we're just here for a few more days, and then it's back to the States and visiting with my family for the holidays.
Yeah, he's going back home for Christmas, or?
We're gonna go a couple different places, but yeah, we're kind of jumping around. I'm gonna be in LA for a minute, and then visiting family. So it's it'll be exciting.
Making the most of some time off, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of feel like, even though I've had a few weeks off here and a few weeks off there, but I'm kind of always on tour because it's, if you have 3 weeks off between one set of gigs and another set of gigs, it's like that's not enough time to adjust and become a person again.
Yeah.
So it'll be, I think it'll be after this tour in January that it's going to feel like, I'm really not on tour anymore. So.
Have any gigs come close to that Union Chapel gig from May?
No, nothing has been like that. That show was absolutely unbelievable. It's just, that was the biggest show I've played, I've headlined up till now, and it was incredible. It was like a great place, and the fans were just super locked in, and it's bigger. It was just bigger too. So there's just nothing quite like that. Honestly though, every show where people show up and they're excited is special and incredible. And I guess the difference with that, it was just like there's something, there's a visceral element, I guess, when you go and you get on the stage and it's loud.
Yeah.
It's loud, and I was playing with the band there that I have some British guys that play with me when I'm
okay.
over there, and so it was just it's a powerful show. The band rocked, the audience was great, and it was just there was something very special in the air that night. London is always very good to me.
How many times have you toured over in England?
I went there and played 2 shows in London in February.
Yeah.
And then I went back in May, and now we'll be going back again January 4th. So this will be the 3rd time that I've played shows in England, and I've got 2 other ones as well. Excuse me, I played 2 other ones in England last time, and now this time I've got a bunch more. I'm kind of going all over the place in England and then to Ireland and all over Europe. So it'll be exciting. I'm glad to be heading. Being able to tour internationally like this is very new for me. This year was the first year that I have played outside of America.
Yeah.
And so it was wild to go to Canada or to come to Australia or go to Norway and have people show up. It's kind of an unbelievable thing because I'm not on the radio all the time.
No.
Like we're commercial radio getting crammed down people's throats a 50 times a day, and I don't have the theme song to a TV show or anything. I'm not one of those things that's like kind of all over the place. Like the people that find me, they kind of have to seek me out, and so I think it's pretty cool that I can travel around and play these shows, and then a lot of people show up and that they're excited. It's kind of unbelievable.
Ever since A Drop in the Ocean came out, do you still ever have those gigs when not many people know who you are, or is it just always flat out now?
Well, everybody that comes to my gigs knows who I am.
Yeah.
But there's certainly gigs that I play where there aren't as many people. It just depends. For me, it's all about having the right promoter involved in the show is obviously very important because, like I said, my fan base, it's so much about word of mouth. So you're not gonna turn to whatever pop radio in your town and have it pop up. Ron Pope is coming to town to play. So having the right promoters involved, I think, is definitely key. I've been really lucky for this Australian tour. I've got the Frontier. They're doing my tour.
Yeah.
They're super awesome. They've been really, really, really great with us. And all these shows, the word has gotten out, and people knew about them, and have showed up. Because that's always a frustrating thing when we show up in a place and then I leave, and 3 days later people are like, "How come you never come to Chicago?" And then I'm like, I'm gonna come back to Chicago and I'm gonna kick you.
Yeah.
Like, you're killing me here. I'm like, because people get overwhelmed with information information. Like no matter how many times I put on Facebook or Twitter or something, no matter how many times I say I'm coming to such and such a place, and inevitably some people aren't gonna get that information because people are just bombarded on all sides by information. That's kind of the great handicap that's imposed by the internet. It's just there's so much stuff constantly going shooting at your face. So it's like, I think it's a challenge for people to get the information you're putting out.
How important do you think things like Facebook are, though, these days?
It's obviously very important. I think people live at their computers, and they consume media, and they live their lives in a very different way than they ever have in the past. Like when I was a little kid, if I wanted a CD, I would, save some money eventually go and buy, and I would get one CD, and that would be like my CD.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go to the movies, I would save some money and, I'd go to the movies. And now people consume media in a very different way, because you can have any song that has ever been recorded. Like if you want to hear a live performance from Led Zeppelin touring in America in 1973, or you want like a recording of Charlie Parker, but he's playing in his house or whatever. Like you can find anything you want, and download somebody's entire catalog instantly, or you can watch a movie that's in the theaters right now on your computer, or you can talk to your grandmother on Skype even though she's in Croatia. And so you can watch videos on YouTube of comedy or dancing or whatever. There's so many different things that people can be doing, and so I think it's very interesting, like in terms of, creating something that, creating music or creating movies. It's just, now you have to kind of integrate yourself into all of someone's life. So it's, used to just be that, if you were a band, if you were in Pearl Jam in the 90s, the only part of people's lives that you had to be a part of was their music listening time and then their concert going time.
Yeah.
But now with Facebook and Twitter, I feel like, my fans are much more a part of kind of my regular everyday life, like not just at the concerts, and vice versa. I'm telling them kind of what's going on with me and what I'm doing and what I'm thinking, and silly things and serious things, and they kind of in turn get to do the same. So it's interesting. I think in a lot of ways it's taken down a lot of the walls that kind of that used to exist in the music industry. Like people like Lady Gaga, for instance, who's one of the biggest musicians in the world at this juncture. Her fans can go on Twitter, and she says stuff like about what she's doing. Like it's not just come to this concert or buy this DVD. It's I'm out with my friends, and I'm here's a picture of us in this club, and here's here's where I am. I'm on the beach in this place. Like I think that's a really interesting facet of social media, that people can if there's an artist that they love, they can become a part of their life, and it becomes a much more kind of all-consuming thing, being a fan of something, because there's much more content to be consumed. And I think that's interesting for the fans, and it's as an artist, it's definitely challenging, but it creates serious rewards, I guess, as well, because you can connect with these people in a way that there wasn't the possibility to do in the past. There was nothing like this before. So,
So it's like, thanks to Facebook, we need to keep away from you when you're wearing a hat.
Exactly. Things like that, little bits of information like that. I had that realization the other day. I was like, when you look at a picture of someone who is in the entertainment industry and they are wearing a hat, unless it's somebody specific, like unless you're somebody that wears a baseball cap as kind of part of your look or something like that, as a guy, usually it means that my hair is messed up.
Yeah.
Usually it's because I got out of bed and I was like, you know what, I'm going to lunch, or I'm going to get on this airplane, and I'm not taking a shower. I'm not doing it. So, yeah.
Well, you're here to promote the album Atlanta. I've read where you've said it was much quicker to write than some of your previous albums. Which song of yours would you say has been the most fun to write?
Well, the difference with the Atlanta album in writing it was that I blocked out a period of time, and that was all the time I gave myself to write it. And in the past, I often kind of wrote things in bits and pieces and demoed songs over a very long period of time. And this, I'd say, I probably spent as much focused time writing the album. It was just all in one very small space of time. I wrote every day for a couple of weeks. Every weekday, I would just, like I was going to the office, I would sit down and write. But as far as my favorite song that the one that I enjoyed writing the most in the last couple of years, I would say when I was writing Atlanta, I sat down one of the days, and after many days of sitting and writing songs and just not going outside, I started to kind of go a little insane. And so one day I was sitting and I had this idea, and I was just like trying to bang my head against the wall and just get this thing out of my head and work it out. And I worked on it for hours and hours and hours, and I just couldn't kind of get it moving. And so finally I was like, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to reevaluate, I'm going to come back, and this will all work itself out.
Is this In My Bones?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I get in the shower, and I start humming something completely unrelated to the song, and then I start coming up with these words. And by the time I got out of the shower, I'm drying off, and I have pretty much the entire song written. So I dry myself off, I wrap myself in my towel, I go and I sit down at my keyboard, and I just played the whole song. And that was pretty much it. So stuff like that is cool because there are different ways for it to be rewarding. Sometimes it's a process, and the song doesn't immediately reveal itself. A lot of the time, actually, it's like that, and I sit for many hours, and it's a journey to get there. But this is just like miraculous. It felt like the song was just in my head. I had it in there, and it was almost like a memory or something. Like if I was like trying to remember what my brother looked like when he was 10 years old or something. I just I opened my eyes and it was just there. I felt it. And that's kind of a miraculous thing. There's other songs, Fireflies, for instance, was very much the opposite for me.
Okay.
I wrote that years ago, and I had parts of it. I had the piano riff, which is kind of the main part.
Yeah.
And I really liked the narrative within that. It took me a great deal of time to construct like that. Usually I write songs in one session. I sit down and I write the song. And that was not the case with that one. That took me many sessions and a lot of time and a lot of different places. Just really, I knew that one was going to be a special song, and that I felt really strongly about it. So I spent a lot of time on that, and it turned into something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
That might be of all my songs, that may be my very favorite.
Oh, cool, beautiful. Well, what would be the strangest inspiration you've had for writing a song?
The strangest thing. It's tough because all of my songs are really pretty much about pretty straightforward things. I'm just trying to write about really honest and basic kind of human emotions that you get whether you're a little kid or an old lady or whatever. I try to kind of keep it in that realm where it makes sense to people. Then that's how I write. But as far as the most ridiculous thing, I guess, that's ever inspired me to write a song, two of my best friends were in love with the same girl at the same time, and she was just a disease. God, you never want to wish ill will on anybody, but I hope she's having a bad day today. Anyway, so that was kind of a surreal thing, because that's the kind of stuff you see in movies, and then all of a sudden, it's happening in my life, and so that was weird. So I wrote a song about that once, but mostly, like I said, my songs are about things that real things that happen to people, mostly, when you think about the stuff that's in my songs, whether it's about people falling in love or people, questioning, being hopeless and questioning what they should do next, or losing their jobs or losing their mother or whatever, the people in my songs are very real. Most of the stories and most of the characters are, people, these are things that happen to people. It's not, it's my stories are not from space. I am not David Bowie.
Well, on the album, you write about a man losing his job. Well, what's the lamest job you've ever had? I know you once waited on tables.
Oh my God, the jobs that I've had. I had so many different jobs. I'm so glad that I get to make my music as my job now, because I didn't have a lot of other skills. So I'm gonna give you. There can't be one. I'm gonna give you a list of some of the worst jobs I've ever had. I used to hang up coupons on people's doorknobs in apartment complexes for a pizzeria. So I used to walk through these enormous apartment complexes and hang coupons on door handles. And then they promoted me to washing dishes in the pizzeria. And so I did that as a kid. I bagged groceries, which is not fun. I worked on a loading dock at a plant nursery at like 5 o'clock in the morning when I was a teenager, before I would go to high school. And what else? I'm trying to think. I used to play music in the subway. That was actually a pretty coal job. But then, if you spend enough time underground in the subway, it's filthy and sick. I was like, what? I was getting like coal miner's lung or something, like just being underground all the time. And so, but the very worst, I would say, and like I said, and I was a waiter. I parked cars. I delivered pizzas. That was actually probably the coolest job I ever had. But the worst job I ever had was I was a security guard in a jeans store, and the worst part about it was I wasn't allowed to directly confront people that were stealing. So and I was supposed to stand in this like kind of a specific space by the door too. And then they would tell me, if someone was stealing, someone would come and relieve me and stand in my little rectangle, and then I could go up to the person and be like, "Excuse me, can I help you?" And anybody that's stealing a bunch of stuff would be like, "No, I'm totally fine." And I'd be like, well, what about any of those things? I noticed you had some things before. Excuse me, I couldn't say, take the pants out of your bag right now. And that makes you a little crazy if your job is to try to make sure that people don't steal, and you also have to let people steal. It was just like a miserable experience, and I had to stand, like I said, in this one little space just for hours and hours and hours and hours. That was at some point during that job was when I realized, that I kind of would never survive working for someone else. It was like one day I was writing a song and I was like, I'm not gonna go. I'm just not gonna go. And they called me and they were like, you gotta come in. And I was like, nope, not gonna be able to get there. And they were like, well, what if we were to fire you? I'm like, I don't care. I can't. I gotta stay here. And so that was when I ended up going and playing in the subway, like right after, because I was doing that and waiting tables right around the same time. And then I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I played in the subway one day, and I sold a bunch of CDs, and I made more money than I had been making at my other jobs. And I was like, And so I did that like for about a year, almost every day. And then I went on tour for a long time, and then I taught guitar lessons, which was cool. And then after that, that was about when my music started to kind of really pop off and become my job. So
what are some of your best memories of meeting up in your songwriting circle back at NYU?
Well, there are so many incredible songwriters in that circle. I met a lot of the guys that have been in the district over the years. The district is my other project, my band. And so I met a bunch of those guys. The original members of the district it was me, and then Paul Hammer, who still is in the district, David Perlick Molinari, who's in French Horn Rebellion now, and then Will Griggs, who founded Cantora Records, he discovered MGMT, and so now he runs that label. That's his yes. And then I'm trying to think who else was there in the beginning. So it was the four of us, plus my friend Chris Keenel from growing up, and a guy named Lyle Ness who I met at NYU. But so 4 of us, though, met in that circle. And then I also met Will Frisch, who eventually joined the district and who is still in it now. Yeah. Mike Clifford, who joined the district and is still in it now. Zach Berkman, who's one of my songwriting partners and good friends, who is also in the district. So I met this incredible group of people that I made music with, and a lot of people who I learned a lot of tricks from, like Julie Lloyd, who's an incredible songwriter and a good friend, and Marissa Levy. Like all these just great writers kind of came through that place, and a lot of kind of musical things happened there. Paul's band Savoir Adore, like those people met. I believe they met in there as well.
Oh, okay.
So we all kind of came together in this place, and it was just a kind of a really fertile time. And for me it was great because I had gone to another school for 2 years, and I transferred to NYU, and I showed up at this place, and all these writers were so incredible. They're all great musicians, and I didn't realize that the fact that I could always sit down and write a song, like I didn't think about it as like a big deal. I like to write songs, so I could always sit down and write songs. And so I kind of realized relatively early on in this group that they were impressed with my ability to always be able to write a new song. And so I would come in every week with a couple of new songs. So the club eventually became like, let's critique and workshop 3 or 4 of Ron's new songs, and then one other kid would have written a song. Most weeks it was like that. I was always writing, just constantly bringing in new things, and it was cool to be with a group of people that were willing to tell me when I did a bad job too. I think a lot of people that write songs are a little bit too kind of precious with their work, and a lot of artists are like that. I think where they're not willing to take critique, or they can't accept critique. And I learned in that group that to do better, you need to learn and be willing to accept critique. So that was a really, for me, that was an incredible time, because I had all these great people who were very, very supportive of what I was doing, and were willing to work on my songs with me, and help me and make suggestions, and and were willing to tell me when I sucked. And at that juncture, because even now, I write a ton of songs, and most of them are not good. And the idea is, I write a lot of songs, and then I find good ones, and then that's what becomes the record. Obviously, I try not to put out songs that are bad, but I write a lot of songs, and just so by virtue of the fact that I do it a lot, it's not all good. And it was great to be in a place where people were willing to tell me, like, this needs some work. And I learned to kind of to accept that, whereas I think a lot of writers don't. And I think that's one of the things that kind of elevated my game and made me get better, and made me kind of become who I am now.
No, it's beautiful, man. It sounds like it was a great time.
Yeah,
but I had a lot more topics to discuss, but you're a very busy man, so I'll just ask a couple more questions, man. Thanks heaps for your time. Where do you see yourself on both a personal level as well as your career in 12 months' time?
12 months' time, let's see. It's November the 17th. Okay.
18th.
No, November the 18th. Okay. So let's see, 12 months' time. Well, in 12 months' time, I will have the new album completely finished.
Beautiful.
And I should, knock on wood, I say that now, I should have it completely finished so that we can release it probably at the beginning of 2014.
Cool.
That's the idea. So that's really, the next year, after this tour that I have to do in January, I'd say the majority of February, March, April, May, June, July, maybe August, I'm going to spend writing and recording the next record. So that's going to kind of be, a big thing. I'm going to do some more festival dates probably in Europe next summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's probably all of the, professional stuff I have going on. I don't know, if I'll play any other shows at all in 2013 or not. And then I'm getting married next year.
Beautiful, so am I.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
Same to you, man.
Yeah, so I'm getting married next year, so I'm really excited about that. And so that's like kind of my big personal thing next year. So I've got one big professional thing and one big personal thing. Yeah. So those will be, that's kind of, that's it. Like, obviously, making a new record takes up a lot of time. Making Atlanta really consumed a number of months of my life, kind of in a, really, it was kind of an all-consuming process for a number of months. So I think I would imagine that this will be, a lot of my year will be really locked in on this next album. And then, like I said, I'm gonna get married
and the kids.
And then who knows? Like I said, I think the new record's gonna probably come out at the top of 2014 if everything goes according to plan. And then we're gonna be on tour probably until they tell me I can stop or they kill me. So one or the other.
It sounds like it's gonna be a great year for you, man. Well, just one last question. This is what I ask to everybody. What advice do you have for all aspiring songwriters and musicians?
If I could only give one piece of advice, I would say the main thing is, it's, a lot of people think, when they want to be an artist, like, a lot of people want to be rock stars, but they don't want to be musicians.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people like that, certainly. The guys, that when you're 21, they're like in bands and they just wanna rock and whatever. And then over the years, kind of those guys drop off, and I think a lot of people are in love with the idea of being an artist or the idea of being in a rock band or whatever. And I certainly have always been. But you also have to remember that this is work. Like, if it was easy, then everyone would be a rock star or a ball player or an actor or whatever. It's not easy. It's incredibly hard. It's work. It's work all the time. And the way that you're going to win is by working harder than everybody else, because there's always going to be a kid who's younger and better looking, and he's going to be a better singer or a better rapper or whatever you do. He's going to be better at instruments. He's going to know how to produce records when he's 11 years old, and he's going to know how to dance too. And like his parents are going to be rich, and like all this stuff is going to. There's always going to be somebody like that. And so what no one can naturally be better than you at is working hard. And so if you show up and work hard, like there's nobody that's going to naturally be able to work harder than you. Like it's not like, like I can't sing all the notes Stevie Wonder can sing. I don't have the physical capacity to do it. So I'm not going to, out Stevie Wonder you, so it's a question of, figuring out what you want to do and then being dedicated and working very, very hard and, treating it like it's your job. Because I treated this as if it was my job long before it was my job, and that's what made it into my job eventually. And a lot of other people that I knew, as we were coming up, who were better in all aspects of what we do, better singers and better players and stuff like that, and better writers. A lot of those guys just weren't as focused, and they eventually gave up. Whereas I was like, there is no other option for me. I will not ever stop, and and I kind of had a single-minded, determination to do it. And I think that's really the key. You have to be willing to kind of outlast everybody else and stay at it and work hard, because it's most of the time it sucks. Like even when you succeed, a lot of the music business sucks. It's like you have to deal with people that don't know anything about music, trying to tell you about music, and you're always away from home and stuff like that. Like, lots of it sucks. But at the end of the day, like, I get to get on stage tonight in front of a bunch of people that really appreciate what I do, and that's the reward for doing the work. And so I think, keeping that in mind is very important. That it's always, you always have to know that it's your job. You have to treat it as such. Otherwise, your job's gonna be something else, and they're gonna make you work hard at that. So you might as well do it at this.
Yeah, now you're in the lucky group of being paid to do what you love.
Yeah, my great grandfather used to always say that, everybody kind of says this, but if you can get paid to do what you love, then you win. And luckily, it seems like so far, I've been very lucky. But it's it's a combination, obviously, of luck and chance and the grace of God and whatever else you think it is, and then also just like real roll up your sleeves work, and you just and determination. I think you got to stay at it.
That's exactly right, man.
A very long answer to a very simple question.
That's exactly what I was looking for, man. Well, there you go, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you get yourself a copy of Ron Pope's latest album, Atlanta. And for the latest news and info, you can like him on Facebook at facebook.com/Ron Pope Official. Once again, Ron, thanks for your time, mate. Really do appreciate it, and good luck with your gig tonight.
Thank you so much.
Catch you later, man.
All right.